Hey guys, Ed Haynes here from Coastal Fitness, affiliate CSTL. Talking to you about some things to think about with the first Asian Champions Qualifier, 17.1. We're going to keep this short and sweet. We're going to break these videos into two parts. Part one being limitations and part two being pacing. This is just food for thought. Take from it what you want. Just important that we strategize and attack these workouts, especially with such a big window. We can be doing these workouts numerous times. So the workout itself, we have a 12-minute AMRAP, 10 toes to bar, 30 wall balls, 10 toes to bar, 30 power snatches, 10 toes to bar, 30 thrusters, 10 toes to bar, 30 calorie row. So a couple of things to think about when we talk about limitations. First things first, toes to bar technique and efficiency. There is a fair bit of toes to bar. If you don't have a nice kipping toes to bar dialed in, and you're somewhat limited by technique there, then you're going to want to think about a braking strategy early on. It's amazing how quick that amount of reps is going to catch up with you and limit you at one point. Looking at the movements, we have toes to bar, we have power snatches, we have thrusters, which require some grip surprisingly in that front rack, and we have rowing. A big limiter for a lot of us is simply going to be grip and lat endurance, especially as we get further on through the workout. And for those of you who'll be making a return to the second round, that's something you definitely want to factor into. Next, we're looking at knee flexion or squatting mechanics. So we look at the movements. We have wall balls. We've got toes to bar. Let's not forget there is some knee flexion involved in power snatching, thrusters, and of course rowing. So if knee flexion isn't a good movement for you, or just basic squatting mechanics, maybe you're tight, maybe your positions aren't ideal, or maybe you just purely lack endurance in that movement, then that's something you want to think about. If you go big and unbroken in the sets early on, it's going to catch up with you very, very quickly. For some of you, if this weight is heavy, and for a lot of you people doing this workout, it won't be a heavy weight, but for those of you that this is heavy, absolute strength might actually be your limiter here. Especially for women who are shorter and have to throw that wall ball to the 9-foot target, that actually becomes more of a strength piece than it does for a lot of other people, where it might just be light muscle endurance or even aerobic type work. Engine, it's a word that gets thrown around a lot fairly loosely, I think. As to how much this is going to hit your engine is really determined upon your braking strategy and your limiters. If you're having to break movements up a lot from the start, or you decide that that's a smart strategy, you probably won't find that this is as much of an engine workout. But for those of you who can move through these movements fairly proficiently, your rest is going to be minimized. There's going to be a lot more work in a shorter time frame. It's definitely going to feel more aerobic. When we talk about our energy systems, predominantly we're looking at muscle endurance and the aerobic system. But definitely, like all these testers are probably going to be, as we get towards the end and we start pushing harder and going on broken and bigger sets as we beat the clock, we're definitely going to dip into lactate past that threshold. Pacing, a few things to think about. Small versus large sets. Again, like I said, it's very wise that if you're going to have a few limiters in this workout to start breaking up early on. A lot of times I see these type of workouts and we approach them with what I would say a less than ideal strategy, which is basically go hard and as broken as possible. And then when we start to break down, we implement a braking strategy. If we're getting to the point where we're grinding through reps and trying to get those last toes to bar or push up to get that last thrust or power snatch, you've actually gone one rep too far. We want to save that tipping point till we're getting towards the end of the workout, maybe the last 2 minutes to 1 minute. The key is to keep your rest short. I always think with these longer type pieces when we're doing a chipper style format is we don't want to be going bigger sets and taking big long rests. Sometimes it's a lot more efficient to be doing shorter sets with the shorter rests. With that said, it's very worthwhile counting your rest when you drop that bar, especially when it comes to repeat workouts. Yeah, and that links back to my previous point in terms of avoiding those failing reps. When you get to a point where you're just getting reps and you're grunting trying to get them out, that really puts a halt and extends the recovery period. And we really want to avoid that as much as we can in this workout. For the majority of us, we want to keep the majority of this workout below our aerobic threshold. So if we have that dotted line when we talk about our energy systems, crossing over it is when things get really hazy. A lot of people refer it to the red line, or when shit gets spicy. We want to stay away from that as much as possible. And like all these testers in these qualifiers, we want to save that tipping point right to the end. Couple of little reminders. Your limiter will determine how many repeats you do this workout. If, for example, you're fairly proficient with the movements, this is going to be very taxing on your aerobic system. It's going to feel like a lot of open style workouts that you do. If you are dipping into a lot of lactate, which means you're getting past that threshold, finishing in a heap on the floor and taking 5 to 10 minutes to recover, you're probably going to need a little bit more recovery before you have a reattempt. And of course, you have to plan this in with your other reattempts of the other workouts. If, for example, you get halted by a limiter, let's say toes to bar, so you're someone who stood there kind of looking up at the bar doing singles and doubles, then you might be able to do this workout a little bit more because there's no mass residual fatigue or mass neural fatigue that requires longer recovery. Something for men to think about. Do you want to use a ladies bar or a men's bar? Grip is definitely a limiting factor for a lot of people. So sometimes going for a skinnier bar with the ladies bar just saves the grip a little bit. It means that most of you are going to have to add or sacrifice a kilogram onto your bar in order to use a ladies bar. That's something that you need to weigh up. Toes to bar height, of course, when you're doing this many reps, make sure you're not having to jump up 6 foot to get onto a bar. Set mats up, set boxes up underneath so you can easily get up and access that bar. That's it, guys. Good luck with the workout. Look forward to seeing your scores.